Yeah, hi everyone, and thanks for today's SAP community call. My name is Laura. I'm an SAP community advocate and part of the community and influencers team. And today's call is about SAP HANA Cloud operations. And with me, I have Ralf Tekala, who is product manager for SAP HANA Cloud. As always, this session will be a 60-minute session, live streamed here on YouTube with the recording directly being available afterwards. Ralf will present for approximately 45 to 50 minutes, and then we will have a dedicated time for Q&A towards the end. So definitely feel free to post your questions in the chat here in YouTube. For this, please remember to be logged into YouTube in order to make use of the chat function. And Ralf's team is also here in the back supporting during the call in the chat, addressing your questions already during the call. And with that being said, I'd like to hand it over to you, Ralf, and you can start presenting. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Laura, for this warm introduction. Thanks a lot that I can be here. I have the opportunity to show you a little bit more details about HANA Cloud and its operations, which are hopefully at the end you will see quite easy, very easy, and a very round package. That said, we have a close-packed agenda, and with that, I don't want to spend too much time on it. We will look into the context of HANA Cloud being a part of the business technology platform of SAP. The operational relevant capabilities are presented, and much more details about backup recovery and lifecycle management, high availability, and disaster recovery, and what's around that in this topic. That said, we have some forward-looking statements inside, and this is the disclaimer for that. HANA Cloud, it's our database solution for the future. Why is that? Simply because we have a whole ecosystem around it with the SAP HANA Cloud architecture, giving us a lot of features, not only in HANA Cloud, but also outside. But the core of it is our SAP HANA database in memory, and having some very nice features around. You see it listed here. We have the smart data model, geospatial graph, machine learning, predictive modeling, enterprise search, document store, and this helps a lot. You probably know SAP HANA as an in-memory technology for quite some time. Recently, we extended this technology, as you can see here, also with a native storage extension, which is our option to offload not very much used data from the last year or the years before down to the disk, simply to free the memory to be even more agile, more performant for the in-memory and most actual data part. If you say I have a huge amount of data, we also have a data lake with structured files, even recently, not only an IQ database as a relational database, as a relational data lake, also structured files can be offered as an even more cost-effective place to store a lot of data. We have a lot of virtual access options, replication in place. We can switch between them. So if you say I would like to use HANA Cloud as a foundation for data, I have in a lot of places around the world in different cloud environments, then virtual access or replication gives you the chance to use it only accidentally sometime. The virtual access is the most useful one, or you say it's used now so many times, it makes sense to replicate data. You can switch immediately between these kind of parts and technologies. We have elastic scale at the side, very nice new developments coming in here. And on top, a lot of possibilities to analyze the data, to present the data with our SAP Analytics Cloud, SAP Data Warehouse Cloud, SAP Business Applications, and third-party applications. So this is the set of environment I would like to present here as a short overview. Where are we located? And we are really benefiting from this nice environment. Coming back more closer to HANA Cloud and expecting or assuming, not expecting, assuming you know SAP HANA a little bit from the on-premise side, you might have seen in the past that you have a lot of work to define the hardware, to choose the operating system, get into the mechanics of these pieces. You then will install HANA on-prem on top. You see a lot of work you have to do before you actually can use the infrastructure, the technology of HANA at the end and build your data layer and application on top. This all gets much easier to you as a customer, as an interested party. As you can see with HANA Cloud, we can do a lot for you. We can manage most of the very technical part where you need often a lot of experience into the hardware, into the OS, the dependencies. All this is done by SAP with this managed service. So you can concentrate on the left pieces, SQL parts, provisioning capabilities, selecting certain services and options on top, and focusing on the data exactly, managing users, managing catalog and content, and build your applications on top. So this makes the life of our consumers, of our customers, very easy because of this simplification we see here in this place. We have data tiers here in place, so several of them, as you can see here in this pyramid. You see on top, of course, SAP HANA with its in-memory technology. We have native storage extension, as already mentioned shortly before, which gives us the chance to put out integrated data into the HANA instance down to the disk to optimize the in-memory space really for the most precious operations, precious analytics. And if data is 1, 2, 3 years old, then and you still want to have it in reach to a certain fast degree, then storage extension still gives you a lot of options here. We have very great feedbacks from customers telling us, hey, even though we know this data is now put down to native storage extension, the whole system is still working like charm, as if it wouldn't be over there. Of course, we do a lot on HANA side with caching, have a very intelligent cache algorithm here in place so that it can really optimize for the usage. If you say I have even more data, which is really some kind of a data lake, of course, IQ can help here with a relational database kind of environment for the data. And if you say I have even more, I would like to spare even more money, then you could go for the data lake files or even raw storage. All this comes with compromises, volume, performance, and price, as you can see on the right side. This is clear, I think, to everyone. Performance is always its price, but with HANA Cloud, we deliver really nice options to lower the costs by putting the data where it belongs, where it has the right KPIs, right usability, and at the end, hopefully all will benefit from that. That said, we come to SAP HANA Cloud provisioning. And here you see again, we are a member of the SAP Business Technology Platform. Typically, we are the preferred persistence. Often from the application perspective, we are named persistence. And this you can also see here in this very overview of the stack. You see in the bottom part the different cloud service providers we have at hand, and this is really giving our customers the flexibility they need, especially if they already have applications in place on the different cloud service providers you see here in the list. It makes a lot of sense to have this flexibility also for the persistence piece. You know, latency is always a critical part, and having your services as close as possible to your existing application is always helpful. And we from SAP have here really good offering to our customers. So within the business technology platform, of course, you see development services, operational services, business services, platform services, and of course, our part as data and storage service, of course, also with computational capabilities on HANA Cloud as usual. And all this is done typically with SAP HANA Cloud. We also use the common technology on the market, Kubernetes, as the environment. And on the next slide, I have a little bit more details about these pieces we are using here. And with that said, let's dig into the different layers of the stack. We of SAP, as we said earlier in this slide before, we are benefiting cloud service providers. They have the infrastructure around the world. Why should we invest here in more? Because we can consume the existing hardware offering. And here we get offered by our cloud service providers, of course, CPU and memory. But not only that, also the virtualization environments on top are delivered to us, multiple of them. And of course, storage is needed in way of an S3 object store, and of course, fast disk for the data storage of HANA. This is the bare minimum as we need. And on top, we bring in the SAP BTP Business Technology Platform Core Foundation, which is also consuming our open source tool, SAP Gardener. It's also an orchestrator for Kubernetes, K8s, as you can see here. And on top, this Gardener can slice the offered VMs in nice pieces as containers again, which are then in size of what our customers finally need. So we can orchestrate here the sizes of the containers to have the less the dropouts and free spaces in between to optimize the usage at the end. The containers are supported with the disk spaces, accordingly managed by Gardener. And at the end, on top, we get the cloud infrastructure, our layer where we manage these containers from our business perspective, offer services, as we will talk about shortly after in the next slides. And we can then on top run our SAP HANA Cloud HANA database or the SAP HANA Cloud Data Lake. This helps us to optimize the usage of the available hardware to make it as cost-effective as possible for all parties and have the most flexible usage of these pieces that the customer can easily request certain sized containers or environments, I must say, because he typically doesn't see all these orchestration layers. He asks for a certain instance and he gets it as it's defined. That said, we have to manage these instances. Of course, we have a very user-friendly front end inside of the BTP cockpit, the SAP HANA Cloud Central, where we can demand these different instances, the sizes, name them, define the passwords, access routes, and so on and so on. Define high availability. All you need can define if you need a data lake or not. And at the end, this instance is created from this service in the background, and you can use it some minutes later as a full-blown service. So as you can see here, we have cloud tiles, we have endpoint management, we have cockpit as a service, we have a database explorer at the side, and a business application studio to manage your applications. Beyond that, we will see later on, we have this HANA Cloud cockpit, as you can see in the middle. And this cloud cockpit allows you to observe the database instance, see what's going on the database, who's doing what, are there performance bottlenecks, do I need to extend the instance accordingly? All this is possible from the cockpit as a service. Of course, we are using secured and encrypted SQL connections. No VPN is required. We have IP whitelistings. We are not exposing HANA hosts at all, and standard authentication and authorization. And you should use a minimum HANA client version as listed here. Okay, that said, you might have not only one instance which you are cuddling. Instead, you have a whole field of instances, and you wouldn't like to automate things here. Here we are also very nicely prepared for that. We have a Cloud Foundry API in place, often CF API named, where we can offer automated provisioning. So if you need a certain number of instances, you want to have them in certain sizes, certain environments, then the Cloud Foundry API gives you the possibilities to interact with the management of the instances, create these instances, trigger upgrades, updates as you need it. All this is documented, and you find the links here in the presentation. How to use the Cloud Foundry CLI to interact with the SAP HANA Cloud environment, or for example, to trigger a takeover with the CLI for your benefit, for your as you need it, and integrate it maybe with other applications to switch from one location to another. This is a very nice option to even automate it further. That said, where can I find HANA Cloud? In which data center locations? Here, most actual world map about where to find what. You see we have the different cloud service providers in the list: AWS, Azure, Alibaba, and GCP. In between, you also find a free plan, an earlier named free tier data center mentioning. Here you can get a free plan environment for a certain period of time, and can renew it after that time, of course, to have a first look, test out what we are offering here to our customers, and at the end can decide, do I change this from a free plan to a business plan, maybe to make it real beneficial for you and your customers. So you see, we are in all major countries and continents around the world. The number is growing all the time. So we already have the roadmap for next year. So yeah, please check out our websites where you could at the end find the nearest data center of your choice. Okay, what are the capabilities? Some of them you find here. Of course, the instance sizes are very interesting for you. You can start with 30 gigabytes Some cloud service provider starts with 32 gigabytes, makes not much of a difference. And then the utmost size for HANA database, definitely not for the data lake, as you see in the next line. It's 5.6 terabytes for the memory part. And on the linked list here, documented list, you'll find in which data center and in which environment or availability zone inside of these data centers you can reach which size. Right now there are some limitations I don't want to say, but conditions we have to take coming from our partners, cloud service providers. And so, yeah, please have a look to combine the right availability zones for your use case. So for the data lake, you see 1 terabyte to 90 terabytes. We have the different partners I already mentioned, SQL, SQL Script, OLAP, OLTP is possible. We have the HANA in-memory store, we already mentioned, native storage extensions, data lake files, and cloud object store is also in place via the HANA data lake HDL. Administration and monitoring, we already mentioned a little bit, Cloud Central, Cloud Cockpit as a starting point. And later, if you have your instance, then of course the Database Explorer is a good start to look deeper into the SQL tables and so on. Availability, we will come to more details here, of course, in the next slides. The availability is in the area of 99%. In the standard availability, meaning you have your single instance and we are offering you backup and recovery automatically. You don't have to switch it on. It's always on in the background. And if something happens, a restart will be executed, and overall you can expect an availability of 99.9%, which is mostly handed through by the infrastructure colleagues from our cloud service providers. They are typically mostly supporting this and handing it to us. Beyond that, we are offering several high availability options we will talk about shortly after. So there is the 99.99% right now with a multi-zone HA option we will talk about shortly after. We have disaster recovery in place via asynchronous multi-zone replication, and backup recovery, as mentioned already, is automatically working. Recovery can be controlled by the customer, and you can decide to which timestamp he would like to recover. Of course, you would like to know, what does it mean? What does what are the unit figures, estimated unit figures I have to talk about? And for that, we have an SAP HANA Cloud estimator, as you can see here on the slide. He tries to be as accurate as possible, but of course, you know, it's always a difficulty to see all the limitations or the sizing information as known. So we try to estimate as good as possible, but there's always a last bit you might consider. So please contact SAP. You can define t-shirt sizes, as you see on the slide here on the right. You can go for a very detailed definition of memory, compute, storage, backup storage, and so on, to help you to estimate how much units you might need at the end. Okay. That said, let's come to the details. What does it mean to operate SAP HANA Cloud? What options in detail do I have? And for that, we will go through backup and recovery, lifecycle management, and high availability. There's quite some stuff behind it, but as said, we try to make it as user-friendly as possible. Like, for example, here, the backup and recovery offering. As said, this is our standard offering. Backup is always there. We do full backup once a day, typically during night times of the local zone. Log backups every 15 minutes. So usually, if the disks are not corrupted, anything happens to them, typically this is mostly guaranteed by our cloud service providers. RPO is usually 0, so you are not losing any data. Only if you really have a broken disk, which is very rarely, then you might miss 15 minutes of the read or log disks. And because every 15 minutes a log backup is happening. But as said, this is very rarely happening with the guarantees of our cloud service providers. Retention policy is 14 days, and we are keeping 3 full backups. You don't have to decide which of them. We do it automatically via certain KPIs in the background, so that you can always be sure that your recovery is as fast as possible. The backups are always encrypted and transferred to an object store via encrypted channel, so security is always given. And with that, you are capable to go back these 14 days when you want to do a recovery, and customers can initiate a recovery process via the Cloud Central as a self-service. And we will see a screenshot with the next slide about this. So the recovery is very simple. You go to the Cloud Central, you have this 3-dot menu on the right side. Typically, there's a menu point, Start Recovery. And with that, you will see a pop-up you see on the lower right side. This gives you the opportunity to select a point in time within the last 14 days. As mentioned earlier, and yeah, that's what you need to do, and then the recovery is starting. This was part of our QRC2 delivery of last year, so it's already in place for a long time. So very solid, no surprises in this direction. There's another option also for some quarters in place. You could also recover your HANA database, HANA Cloud database, into another availability zone. Here you see an example. Again, you start with the HANA Cloud Central. You have your list of instances, exactly 1 here in this example. And you find the 3-dot menu again. You can go through to the Recreate Instance button, get an pop-up. You can decide to which availability zone would I like to move. You can use an automatic feature here if you're not sure where is the best place to go, or you can also very manual decide exactly which availability zone you want to use. Maybe you know your application you built on top of HANA Cloud is already located in West Europe 3 data center or availability zone, so it makes sense then to select that. This is your choice you can make here. So you can recover here on a different availability zone, or you can migrate to another Cloud HANA database in the other availability zone. That said, what are the future directions? Here we have some nice roundoffs for the future, user-defined retention policies. There's typically a demand from customers to be able to keep this and that backup for a longer period of time, and define your retention policy on your own, keeping your backups maybe not only for 14 days, but 13 days, as you wish. Yeah, default will be the 14 days, as you can see here on the slide. Another idea and wish from customers is to have a long-term storage for backups, to archive them for a period of time. This is planned for next year, beginning of next year, to get a possibility to archive backups and keep them for longer storage because of legal obligations you might have in your country. And also system copy is the idea to do system copies by recovering a backup to a different HANA Cloud instance or to build up in a QA sandbox systems, whatever you need. Okay, high availability. Now, if we it's getting a little bit more complicated, because here you have to decide, do I want to have that, or is it enough to have the 99.9 as a standard offering? As I mentioned earlier, here we see the automatic service restart I mentioned, automatic container restart. You know, you have seen in the slides before, we are working with these Kubernetes containers managed by Gardener, an open source software by SAP. So it can happen that the container breaks, then we can restart that. It can be that an index server inside of the container is failing, then we only restart the responsible service. It must not only be the index server, it can also be some minor side services on the side. They are restarted. Then we have always also the near zero downtime option for upgrades and backup and recovery. And with that, we can offer these 99.9% uptime already. If you would like to know more about our SLAs, please use this link here on the right side. It's the official SAP HANA Cloud supplement mentioning the SLA statements in our SAP's Trust Center. Going further, if you would like to have a better SLA, like the 99.95 uptime, there we have SAP HANA-based replication, a new development from the earlier known system-based replication of HANA. This replication is further developed inside of the cloud, streamlined, because, you know, in the cloud we have a very defined stack. We know the pieces of the stack, and with that we now can even offer automatic failovers, which we could not offer in this quality for the on-premise side. So here we are talking about seconds of takeovers. Typical takeover times are 10 seconds roundabout, plus little bit time, like 5 seconds for the automatic failover. So if we are determining the state and doing the failover, then we are talking about 15 seconds. If you can also trigger this by yourself, then we are talking about 10 seconds, because we do not have to do this automatic analytics first. Is it really necessary to fail over or not? This is then not necessary. So we are re-establishing the synchronous replication again, bringing all up again. So if you do a takeover, the former primary or source system we are talking here about is coming up back again, and replication is re-established, so that at the end you have a synchronous replication in place again. So this is much easier than on-premise. In on-premise, our customers had to use a cluster manager of your choice, build it all together with the help of the cluster manager. Typically, they have installation packets around that. Here, all comes out of one hand. HANA itself is offering these cluster manager features and allowing us to be so fast as mentioned earlier. Next to the synchronous replication, we also have an asynchronous option between replication zones. Today, these are 2 availability zones. And this is our classical system replication you might know from the on-premise version of HANA, offering much more features, like different software versions in between the source and the replica. This is very useful for upgrade scenarios. So for the upgrade scenarios, I also like to explain a little bit later. We are using this technology here to build up a shadow system with the new software and do the takeover to switch our clients to the new software at the end. So the zone switch here is manual because it's an asynchronous replication. It's not possible to do it in an autonomous fashion. Accordingly, it's customer driven. And often what we name asynchronously in storage environments or storage vendor talk, it's named near sync. So every commit we are creating on the primary side is directly sent via an asynchronous communication to the secondary, to the replica side. And this is named near sync. It's not in a way like often storage vendors are talking about. When they are talking about asynchronous, then they think about a snapshot taken every 15 minutes at every 30 minutes and then replicated. No, we are sending every commit over the line, but it's still asynchronous and not committed in this way. Okay, what's the road ahead of us? To talk a little bit about the future. The first thing we already delivered beginning of this year in QRC1, and with that we finally have an uptime of 99.99%. It's a synchronous multi-zone replication offering, again between two availability zones. It's based on the new developed replication technology who is offering autonomous and automatic takeovers. And it's re-establishing, like before, with the synchronous replication, also the replication afterwards. And with the synchronous replication, we can always be sure, as usual in the market, that in the future, end of this year, beginning of next year, we want to have multiple replicas and then even expand the SLA and the uptime again. Again, with autonomous automatic failovers and re-establishing the synchronous replication. We are planning to release and to develop multi-region DR for long-distance asynchronous replications across multiple geographical regions, and also an active read-enabled possibility for the replicas for the synchronous setups is planned to utilize these HA replicas for analytical and read-intense workloads. So this is very important at the end to use and benefit from these replicas. You might have maybe multiple replicas and so on. So that said, on the next slide, you also find a nice collection of these RPO, RTO numbers, the availability, is it with a single instance, one zone, multi-zone, or combination of both. So the combination of both, multiple replicas, multiple zones, this is future development. Right now, the best offering is the already mentioned 99.99 with multi-zone and one replica, one source. On the next slides, these are the details of the different offerings. I mentioned them already. Important for you is everything what is synchronous can be automated. You can have automatic switches here. Switch time here is mentioned below 30 seconds to be on the safe side. But from the experiences we see recently, it's in the area of 10 to 15 seconds. Typically, read transactions can continue and write transactions need to roll back, but the corresponding connections are revived, but the transactions inside, write transactions inside, they are unfortunately to be rolled back and restarted again. The asynchronous option mentioned earlier, multi-zone replication. Here you see the full-blown package. You have a synchronous replication on the primary side. You have in zone B another active host as a secondary or replica, And if a takeover is happening, the replica you see here, grayed out or whitened out, is a replica which is created then on the fly as soon as a takeover is happening, simply to spare the cost of this box over here, because we have the automatic features in place to build up these instances on the fly when the takeover between zone A and zone B is executed. So this is really beneficial to reduce the costs at the end. Here, a collection of the options we now have at hand to make them clear on one picture. These are 4 options. 3 we offered already last year, and a new one, the multi-zone HA, is now available since the beginning of this year. A synchronous option, here you see the asynchronous to asynchronous options from DR, and you can combine the HA and DR, and accordingly you have 4 options. Of course, synchronous always offers us some great advantages, and we are still here talking about metro area setups. Inside of this metro area, we can place the instances. As you can see here with the screenshot on the right side, we can place the source in an availability zone. We can place the replica in an availability zone of choice. And you can define for the replica, is it a synchronous one in the same data center or availability zone, or is it an asynchronous in a different availability zone, as you would like to set up your environment. So very beneficial at the end. Coming to the next important piece, near-zero downtime upgrades. Here we have in the meantime several options. As you know, we have the QRCs coming every quarter. Inside of the QRCs, we have patches, also often in the past named revisions. And here you see a situation on the screenshots where we have actually 2 options at hand. We have a new patch and a new upgrade, what we could use, as you can see inside of screenshots. Again, the 3-dot menu is helping us here. And the first thing you should figure out, if you don't know it already from the setup of the system, you should check out via manage configuration. Did I choose a downtime for the upgrade, or do I do an upgrade without a restart? This is important for the later behavior. Doing it with a restart you can very nicely define when the system goes offline, when it goes up after the installation of the software. All the time during that process, the system is off, and the actual downtime is defined by the installation of the software and the restart time. The better choice is probably the near-zero downtime, listed also here on the top. Here we are building up a shadow system. I mentioned it already in a sentence before. Here we are using shadow systems, and we will see more details about the process later on. In the shadow instance, then it's a fully automatic process. You click on the button, I want to upgrade, and everything afterwards runs totally automatic. You only have to decide, do I want to do a patch installation, or do I want to do an upgrade of the instance to the newest QRC, as you can see here with a further little screenshot offering here 2 patches, or offering you 2 QRCs. Here in this example, it's QRC 2 installed from 22, and the new one is a QRC 3 from 2022. Again, of course. And if you have even more available, they are also listed with a pull-down menu. And then you can click on this, or you go directly in this 3-dot menu to apply patch or apply upgrade. So very easy. What's happening in the background is explained here. First of all, for the standard offering, no HA in place. You have your instance here in place. You have your SQL contacts, connections to the instance. With your software version 1, The first thing what happens is we are creating a shadow system, as mentioned earlier. It's connected by the classical system application technology we know from on-premise, because this technology allows us to replicate between two software versions of HANA. Then at a certain point in time, this shadow system is updated. It's in sync with the version 1 instance you have in place already. Still, all the clients still can work with this instance here. And then at a certain point in time, when the version 2 host is ready, takeover is happening. You know, it's taking something like a minute here for this system replication, and then you run your application on the version 2 instance, and the former host or former instance with the version 1 is given back to the pool of our cloud service provider environments, and we can reuse the instance for other purposes later on. The same for an upgrade combo of HA and DR. You see here on the primary side, we have an version 1 replica in the source. We have another replica in the other availability zone. The same thing happens here. We are first updating the DR side, running with HSR to bring in the new software version. We bring another shadow, a new shadow in the same AZ with the new software version, with the HA replica in place. And then again, we do this mentioned takeover on the source side to bring our applications to the new software version. And this takeover is below 1 minute. So we had already quite some customers who accidentally executed this process during the lunch break, and nobody recognizes anything because it was simply so automatic in the background. The takeover which is happening is so fast that it's often not even recognized by any client, any application on top. And the last one is the newest offering, you know, the multi-zone HA option. Here we have a little bit different process because we have to create two shadow systems first. As you can see here on the slide, we have a coupling via HSR on the source side on the AZ1, and from there 2 replications to the AZ2 for a short period of time until we finally do the same process of going for a takeover, again roundabout faster than a minute, and at the end you have your new combo inside of the 2 AZs replicating in between, offering autonomous takeovers. And as mentioned, you now have the choice which QRC you would like to run into. It's very new since QRC 3. We are offering this option now. You can decide, do I run my instance with the most actual QRC, or do I take an older version, -1, -2, so that I can be the front runner, take all the newest available technology, or I say I would like to be on the safe side, going for 1 or 2 versions before. If this instance will be pushed to a -3 version situation because a new release comes out, then expect a forced update or upgrade. It's to be expected, and you cannot get around it. It will happen to a certain period of time. With the next maintenance window, it will be executed. And to prevent that, we heavily recommend to find an individual window to trigger the near-zero downtime upgrade, because then you have all the features available. But we have also a slide for that a little bit later, why this is important. Still, it offers you as a customer the option to synchronize QA systems with production systems, to run it with older, more secure instances with older code, maybe, and you might be more comfortable with that. Then it's now possible, and you can define when you would like to switch between QRCs, and you found the right time for tests and so on. That said, inside of a QRC, only patches are allowed, and only the newest patches are offered. It's simply out of security reasons. We need to go that way, that no flaws in security might be still used. So this is the reason why you get always offered the newest version of HANA. Here, another slide about forced upgrades. Again, long story short is if you are falling out of the supported area of the actual and 2 older QRCs, then a forced upgrade will come with the next upcoming maintenance window. And the biggest downside is, as it's mentioned here in light blue, it will always use a shutdown and restart process, this forced update. So if you're not triggering on your own, then you will always see a shutdown and restart. So be aware of this. Of course, you can let yourself fall into these forced upgrades. But the much better solution is to prevent these downtimes. Shutdown, executing the update, starting up. It takes much longer than a takeover with a minute. So it's always beneficial to actively plan your upgrades with your own under your own conditions or time slots, and execute this necessary upgrade on your terms, meaning ahead of the announced maintenance window. It can be a week before, a day before, then you are out of the hook. You can use the near zero downtime takeover and offsite update. This makes a lot of things better for you. People, consumers of your application you are running on top of HANA might even not recognize that a software version change happened. So it makes a lot of sense to go for an active plan instead of being passive and wait for the forced upgrade. This is the story here. This is the statement I would like to give to you. Okay, that said, what's the monitoring administration here? Here are some very generic statements. Who is responsible for what? Of course, the customers here in golden, upkeeping and maintenance. Here we are offering a comprehensive tool set to monitor and administer the database, but still the customer should have a look out for the database. What's happening? Do we need more resources because the CPU is getting underwater, is occupied too much, and so on. So you should reserve the observe the resources, in particular memory, and analyze the workloads. Management tasks are also listed here. We are also checking for proper configuration parameters, services, and we have a lot of alerts in place to bring certain settings to knowledge of the tenant database inside of SAP HANA Cloud. Security is also two-folded on customer side as on SAP side. Of course, we do strict encryption in all places, and HANA has the capabilities to secure every activity you can think about. Diagnosis and resolution. Of course, we have the possibility to send tickets. You can find monitoring tools. So you can query system views. You might even know from the on-premise side of HANA Cloud, and inspect trace files and so on. Business continuity, utilize backup and recovery. The recovery is triggered by the customers. He decides which replication technology he wants to have, what will be the technologies of choice, and install and update components needs to be triggered by the customer, or he falls into the forced update as mentioned earlier. And I would strongly recommend to prevent these kind of falling into the hole and let others decide when an update has to happen. The tools mentioned shortly here, we have the Database Explorer on the left side, giving you the chance to execute SQL statement, browse the database catalog, import, export, and examine the trace log files. And sorry, on the right side, we have the cockpit for the monitoring, admission control, session, thread, and memory, CPU, and disk usage, administer the alerts, and manage user roles, data encryption, and you see it here. That said, I would like to open up for the questions.
Yeah.
If there are some, I would like to go for that now.
Yeah. Thank you, Ralph, for your presentation. And as you mentioned, we'd like to open it up for Q&A. There have been 2 questions in the chat. However, Jörg has already answered those. So thank you, Jörg, for that. So everyone who's now listening in, this is the time to ask your questions in the chat right here and share your thoughts about the session. In the meantime, maybe Ralph, I ask you to maybe summarize the call in 3 to 5 key takeaways that you think community members should definitely recall from today's session.
Yeah, welcome. It's really a pleasure for me. So the summary, I prepared already a little bit for this situation. So of course, SAP HANA Cloud is a cloud-native database, database as a service product managed by SAP. We saw in the beginning that we have a really nice setup. We take a lot of hurdles away from the customer. He has a lot of choices how to set up the system. We are consuming the cloud qualities like low TCO, elasticity from our cloud service providers, bring in even our own layer in between, as you saw with the SAP Gardener technology. By the way, open source, you can bring in your own ideas over there. High availability, resilience, and autonomous behavior. We had a lot of examples over the last slides. We are multi-cloud offering, which is really helpful for opening up the doors for all kinds of customers, all kinds of projects, maybe even already running with existing applications. It makes our life much easier to offer SAP HANA Cloud in all bigger vendors here, cloud service providers, so that customers can easily consume HANA Cloud as a persistence, as our application guys often name it. We have multiple database services. We can offer data lake with SAP IQ, with rational intelligence that you can interact with typical SQL statements. We have even the SAP data lake files, giving you an even more cost-effective storage place. We have a unified SQL access. With federation and replication. You can switch between federation and replication on demand. If you see that certain data sources on other locations are used very often, frequently, then it makes sense to switch to a replication. And all this is seemingly built in the different storage options to be as cost effective as possible. At the end, it adds flexibility to the projects of our customers. They don't need to start a project by ordering hardware, waiting for it for weeks and months until it arrives. Same with storage. This is all going away. You go to online, you go to our services, and then you can immediately start as a free tier or free plan in the beginning, so that you check out the whole setup, find it useful for you, and at the end you decide, okay, now it makes sense. I go public with my service. I want to make money with it. Then it makes sense to go for a business plan option here, of course. That said, we have free tier and free trial. So you find the links in the presentation, give you a video tutorial how to start, very easy going forward with that. You can even find on more here with further links into blogs, into documentation, and so on. Might be helpful. And even there's an early adopter care program. I would like to stress that we are supporting your project in getting big, getting on the street, consuming HANA Cloud to the best degree as it's possible. And please look out for the registration. It's open until October 31. 31, yes. Okay, that said, thanks from my end. It was a pleasure to be here to present all this stuff to you. And I hope you found some pieces very useful to plan your way ahead, to have the right SLA at the end, the right resilience for your applications with our SAP HANA Cloud as a persistence for your application on top, and that you do not have to worry about these things anymore and can totally concentrate on the applications on top.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Ralf, also for your presentation, of course. And yeah, also thanks to everyone who listened in here during the live. Again, the recording will be directly available afterwards, and we will also share the slide deck with you in the video description down below soon as well. As you might have seen, I shared a few links in the chat as well, so feel free to browse around in the SAP community as well. Ask your questions in there as well in our Q&A area. And for all upcoming SAP community events, or especially community calls, feel free to visit our events page and groups, and you will find all the details there. With that being said, thanks again to you, Ralf. Thanks for everyone for joining today's session. And yeah, take care, everyone, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye.